Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be looking at how we can return values out of our functions using different return types and a return statement. Let's dive in and see how this works. So last lecture, we said that if our function doesn't return a value, then the return type should be void, which is what we've done here. But what if we wanted to take a function such as basically checking whether we should turn around? This function here in the if statement, if we could say should turn around instead, it would be a much cleaner function at the end of the day. So how do we do that? How do we achieve a function that can return a Boolean expression? Well, the way we do it is simply by using a type instead of the void. So if we were to want to return a Boolean expression, we could type bool like we would for a variable. But the thing that distinguishes the function from the variable is the fact that we put parentheses after it. That makes it a function rather than a variable. And what we could do is call it should platform return. And then we put our parentheses. And in this case, I don't have anything that I want to pass in as an argument to this function. So I can just leave the parameter list empty, put a semicolon at the end of the line, and then copy this entire line and go over to the moving platform CPP. And right at the end of the file, you could put it anywhere you like, really, between any of the functions. Just make sure it's not inside a function. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to unindent it. And I'm going to add the class and the scope resolution operator. So a moving platform : should platform return, then remove the semicolon and add some braces instead. And what we want to do here is if we want it to actually return a result, we need to use the special keyword return followed by an expression of the correct type. So in this case, it has to be a Boolean expression. So I could return true and then put a semicolon on the end, or I could return false and then put a semicolon at the end. But it doesn't have to be that simple. It could actually be any expression. It could be another call to a function. It could be a variable. It could be a use of some operators as we have up here inside our if statement. So in fact, let's go ahead and try doing that. I'm going to take this expression, the distance moved, and is greater than move distance. I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to put it as the return expression for the should platform return function. You notice it's going to complain here because distance move isn't a local variable within our should platform return function. So we're going to have to move some more things over. But before we do that, I don't want to forget to put a call to the should platform return in our if statement. So should platform return, and then remember to put the parentheses so the function actually gets called inside our if statement. So now it's starting to read a bit better to me. If platform should return, then we do all of the following. So now what we need to do is bring across the distance moved variable that we've got in move platform. We don't actually need it inside move platform. We're going to cut it out and bring it and put it on the line before our return statement. Usually the return statement is the last thing in a function, because once you've returned out of a function, you actually don't do anything else. If I were to put something like a log message, so I'll put a ulog after my return statement with some sort of message, usually what's going to happen is you'll get a warning from your compiler saying that this line will never be reached, and that you probably didn't mean to do that. So the return statement usually is the last thing. So having moved across the line that defines the distance moved in our should platform return function, you can see it's now saying, hey, I don't have a current location. And well, the current location we can just very easily grab. We've set the current location just before we're calling should platform return. So actually get actor location is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to put that instead of a variable. I'm just going to put a call to get actor location in the place in should platform return. So now what we've got is the distance moved is equal to the f vector distance between the start location and the get actor current location. So if that's greater than our configured move distance, then yes, the platform should return. That's what this function is saying, and it allows us to use it at a higher level of abstraction from within our move platform function. Now you'll notice that it's now complaining that we can't get the distance moved to print our overshoot. Well, that's no big deal. I don't actually want to print that anymore. It's kind of messing up my function anyway. So I'm going to delete the overshoot variable line. I'm going to delete the get name line. I'm going to delete the log message because it was only there temporarily, hence the log temp name. So now our move platform function is starting to look a lot cleaner. We can see that we are doing some updating of the location here. We can see whether the platform should return, and if it should, then we are updating the location and flipping it around. Now, one thing that I think would look a little bit better here is if we had an else statement instead of having this bunch of code up the top. So if the platform should return, we will execute this, else we will execute the normal code in terms of moving it forward. So remember, we cast your mind back to when we talked about the else statement. It just comes after an if statement, and we just do it like this. After the braces, we have a new line and type else, then another new line and open some new parentheses, and we can just move this code that's up here at the top of our tick. We can take it and move it down into the else statement. So now it seems pretty straightforward. Should the platform return, then do the code that does platform returning, else we're moving the platform forward with our platform velocity. Now I'd like to challenge you to create your own function with a return value. I'd like you to add a get distance moved function. So we've currently calculated this into a variable called distance moved. I'd like you to replace that with a call to a function instead. So it should return a float because that's how the type of distance moved. We should call it in should platform return. So instead of using the f-vector dist, we should be using our own implementation. So what code should it contain? What code should we put into it? The hint is that we've already typed this code, so you are just copying and pasting it into the new function. But have a little think about what the return expression should be, such that what we're returning is the distance moved value. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So let's go over to our header file. We'll add a new function here with a float return value called get distance moved. And then we're going to have no arguments in the parentheses. And then we're going to go over to our moving platform CPP. We're going to add in a float, a moving platform, : distance moved, or get distance moved, I should say, parentheses, and then we'll put a new set of braces on the next line. And what we want to return is literally just the expression we're using to create our distance moved float. So I can cut that out and paste it in here. So it's f vector : dist, start location, get actor location, and put a semicolon at the end of that line. And that means that in should platform return now, instead of having this distance moved variable, I'm going to delete that line that's half completed. We're going to return get distance moved, parentheses, is greater than the move distance. So we've kind of taken what was going into a variable and pulled it out into its own function instead. And this means that whenever we want to refer to the distance moved, if we did want to have kept that log message in move platform, then we can easily just call the function get distance moved from any of the functions in our class. Great stuff. So in this lecture, we've learned about return statements and return values, and we've used them to create 2 new functions in our class. I'll see you in the next lecture.